Now, you were on
wildly.
Barbara Walters and some others.
We did an interview probably 3 years after this happened. We, for most of that, well, for all of that time, we just didn't really talk to the media. Barbara Walters was the first interview we did. I think that was in 2000 or 1999.
Now, you have a son named Burke. How did he fare through all of this? Because he lost his older sister, Beth, and then John Bonet. He's right in the middle.
Well, God has just had his hand on him, and that's been our constant prayer, is that our children, our 3 living children, would see how we have overcome this horrible, not just the tragedy of losing the children, the girls, but the aftermath that was so horrific. And every decision that we made was made on his behalf. We no longer were able to live in our home anymore. So we lived with some friends in Boulder for about 6 months until he could finish the 4th grade. And then we moved back home to Atlanta, Georgia, where our extended family lived. And he finished part of his schooling there, and then we moved to Charlevoix, Michigan, where he finished and graduated high school.
How's he doing now?
He's doing beautifully. Thank you. He made the dean's list his first semester at college, and he's studying computers, and is just a brilliant young man.
We're very proud of him.
Now, it just seems like you've gone through so much, almost like Job. And we're going to take a break, John. And when we come back, I want to ask you about how you parallel with Job and how God delivered Job and maybe how God delivered you. Stay with us. We've been talking with John and Patsy Ramsey, whose daughter, John Bonet, was found murdered in their very own home. And they were the ones accused for the murder, and how their faith pulled them through. We'll be right back in this very special edition of Connecting Point Live. Stay with us. We'll be right back. Welcome back to Connecting Point Live. We're here with John and Patsy Ramsey, the parents of John Bonet. That was in the media for so long of a time, and we've seen some of the background on the media, but it's not always what's the truth, is it?
No, it's not. I've learned.
Now, how do you fare with that? When you see things in the media that you look at and you say, that's not true, what do you do? I mean, is there any recourse?
It's pretty tough. It's, as Benjamin Franklin said, it's tough to pick a fight with somebody that buys ink by the barrel, but it's extremely frustrating, and you feel powerless, and but very difficult to overcome.
Patsy, you just pray a lot during that time? What do?
Oh, you
cry?
just grit your teeth and pray for the salvation of those people. I tell you what, I mean, it really has taught, I mean, our friends and people that we know, and our son's friends, who, of course, were very young when all this started happening, to not take carte blanche everything you read and see on the news, because they are just trying to sell newspapers and television time and advertisers. It's all about money, and it's not about truth. It's about who gets the get first. You know, if they haven't quite checked a fact, they will go with it because they know in 10 minutes CNN's going to come on with it, so they want to get it first. And it's all about ratings. I mean, we would, without fail, get invited for the spring and fall ratings, because the ratings would soar, you know, when we were advertised to be coming on their show. And I mean, they just, you know, it's all about money. So you have to just pray for discernment, and I have to pray that these people will get their just rewards. And we know with our God,
it just seems like it's excuse the expression, but morbid for someone to take the death of a beautiful child and then spin it in such a way as to make money off of it, really not caring about the emotion and the pain, just about the money. And you're caught in the middle of this whirlwind.
Yeah, that was the hard part, I think. In fact, there's one Denver Post editor that actually stated that he thought this case had entertainment value. And that just hurts, and it shouldn't be that way. So I think it's a big challenge for us today to understand where do we get accurate, non-biased news.
John, as I said, you seem to me like Job. You know, you've lost, your home, your savings, your funds, your job, 2 of your children. Besides Burke, your wife, you had very little left.
I'll admit I've read Job, and it's a pretty fascinating story. And of course, the whole test of Job was did he still have faith in God without all his assets and family and so forth. And of course, he had it much worse, I think, than I did. But there's a wonderful discovery, for me anyway, that I found in Job. And if you remember at the beginning of the story, Job is said to have, and I forget the exact numbers, but 3,000 cattle and 2,000 sheep and 7 sons and 3 daughters. And then, of course, at the very end of the story, God restores Job's wealth and possessions and family twofold. And it relates that now he had 6,000 cattle and 4,000 sheep, so forth, so on, 7 sons and 3 daughters, and then the story ends. And if you notice that, the question I asked was, well, why didn't God give him 14 sons and 6 daughters, which would have been twice as many as he had in the beginning?
Yeah.
And I think the answer would have been that, Job, you have 14 sons and 6 daughters. 7 and 3 are with me. And it was the most wonderful thing that I discovered in the Bible, I think, for me, having lost 2 children, to see that consistency in Job, which is one of the oldest books of the Bible, written before Jesus came along and told us that of eternal life.
And maybe just a hidden message, as it were, that God gave him back 7 sons, 3 daughters, and said, now I've doubled your children. It's just 7 sons and 3 daughters are with me. You haven't lost any.
You haven't lost any.
And here's 7 and 3 more.
Yeah, it's a wonderful reassurance, I think, of Jesus' promises to us. And just to me, it was just an incredible thread of accuracy through the Bible that had that been written by man, he would have written, and God gave Job 14 sons and 6 daughters. That's what you would have expected in that story. But to have had that detail and that consistency with what Jesus promised us, to me, was just, it was so reassuring to me that yes, I do know my daughters are with God.